Very welcome along to Peil and Back. Around here with you as always, Post Plus Sport on any podcast platform. Well, any podcast platform I say out of the ones we're on: Spotify, Castbox, YouTube, and Google Podcasts. Postplus.sport.blog. Bit of tidying up done on our website. I know I've been saying that the last few weeks. And Post Plus Sport on Instagram and Twitter/X. You can find us all there. So the league season kicked off last weekend. Good round of games. A couple of surprises actually in the league. So we're gonna start by talking about that, and then have a look ahead to next week's games. We have Emma Duffy with us. Emma, good to have the league back. I'm sure you were busy over the weekend covering everything.
Yeah, absolutely. Great to have it back here on. I didn't get to a game myself, unfortunately. I was on the desk, but I was keeping a good eye on LOI TV and Twitter and X and whatnot. So yeah, great to have it back. A few interesting results, as you say, and it's going to be a great season.
Yeah, indeed it will. Emma Duffy of the 42, I should say. Don't want your boss giving out to me. Emma Duffy of Post to Post Sport exclusively. Unfortunately, is not the correct title. Yeah, looking at just to take through the results of the weekend. Shelburne 0, Sligo 0, DLR Waves 1, Shamrock Rovers 1, Cork City 0, Peamount 2, Wexford 0, Bohemians 2, Athlone 0, Galway 2. All kind of intriguing results. I don't really know where to start, but I suppose Sligo Rovers, we were wondering what Tommy Hewitt was going to do there. I mean, we know he's a good manager. He did a great job at that Athlone Town. Plenty of time for Tommy. He's always been good on this show. Sligo goalkeeper Amber Hardy. I didn't know a lot about her, but she was very good. And Sligo just defended really well. I think you could see that. Sometimes we joke about the team of the week, the LOI team of the week being a bit, questionable, but in fairness, Sligo players earning their place in that. Very good, solid defensive performance by Sligo.
Yeah, 100%. I suppose first game of the day at Talk Park. Good point for Sligo for sure, and deserved. Like you say, they defended so well. Amber Hardy in goals pulled off a few unbelievable saves. Noel Murray, vintage Noel Murray, a few crackers of shots. Had a few big chances as well. But Hardy and Co kept her out, and I know even there was a little bit of drama at the end. Chances at both ends. I think it was Gemma Quinn who hit the post for Shells, and then Maggie Pierce put in a big tackle at the other end. But yeah, as you say, finished 0-0. Tommy Hewitt will certainly be the happier of the two new managers. They went out to Talca with a job to do. They frustrated Shelburne, and they leave with their just rewards. But I suppose Shells, look, there's positives for them to take as well. First competitive game under Owen Weirin, a few new players in there, and a big one this weekend coming up against Peamount. So look, a decent start for both sides, but I think Sligo will certainly be the happier of the two for sure.
Yeah, the weekend's fixtures are interesting this coming weekend because we kind of have the teams you would have expected to be in the top four last season: Peamount, Shelburne, and Shamrock Rovers, Wexford Youths. We'll get to Wexford shortly, but Shelburne. I mean, it's not a disaster, I suppose. It's not ideal to drop points at home so early, but at the end of the day, they've recruited very well, and they probably, in terms of squad depth, they're right up there at the top. So a real chance to, I guess, reclaim their title from a few seasons ago.
Yeah, I suppose, and when you've a player of the caliber of Roman McLaughlin to come off the bench like that says it all. Like, she's a quality footballer. Um, Obviously a lot of the old reliables at Shelburne putting in big performances again. As I say, Noel Murray, Pearl Slattery, all those players, and then they have recruited well through the off season too. Even the likes of Jess Garrigan coming back from Shamrock Rovers, that's a big boost. And we all know that Shelburne's underage system is quite impressive. So they'll be right up there again.
Moving on, then the first game of the first goal of the season was scored by Michelle Doonan for DLR Waves. I was supposed to be on commentary for that game for reasons outside of DLR Waves control. We weren't able to bring you anything. I had a bit of fun on Twitter because for a good 80 minutes there, DLR Waves were top of the league table, standout top of the league table on their own. And after Shamrock Rovers equalised, still top alphabetical order. So I had a bit of fun on Twitter, but it was a fairly good performance by Dealer Waves. Look, in fairness, the draw is probably the right result. I mean, Shamrock Rovers had most of the chances, had most of the attack and play. Very impressed with how well organised the Airways were. Jess Gleason and Chloe McCarty, very good. Impressed with Chloe McCarty, actually a young defender, making a return to the Airwaves. And Anya Gorman's, I mean, the penalty decision was questionable, I think you could say. But at the end of the day, Shamrock Rovers did feel like a goal was coming. Um, for me, I mean, it's kind of as a dealer way supporter, I suppose. Look, you expect to not win these games. You expect to not be beating Shamrock Rovers, especially so early in the season. Bit frustrating that the goal comes from a controversial penalty, but at the end of the day, a draw on the balance. If we're talking the balance of play, a draw was probably the right result. Um, Dealer Waves though, it looks like just ever since under Laura Heffernan, it seems like the side's been a bit rejuvenated. I think it's massive that they held on to the squad from last season. I mean, we know at the start of the last season there was an exodus, and I mean, players were leaving, players were coming in. It seemed like everyone was changing. Shamrock Rovers at the same time look very dangerous and look like they're going to be threatening this season.
Yeah, for sure. And like you say, an impressive point for Sligo to take away from Talca Park. It was certainly an impressive point for DLR Waves as well. Obviously took the lead in, I think it was around the 28th minute. I actually didn't get to watch this game live, but just seeing bits and pieces and then looking back through the goals, that kind of thing. I think Summer Lawless seemed to be a bit hard done by, like just from her reaction. I'd love to have seen it a little bit closer. I know you were there. What did you think?
Yeah, well, I was there at the commentary box, so I couldn't exactly see. I mean, Summer Lawless seemed to be very aggrieved that the ball didn't go over the line. The linesman flagged it. I mean, it was an odd one because it kind of like it was a really powerful shot.
Yeah,
Lawless kind of caught it, bundled it over, looked like she took a step back. Not like it's one of those you would need. Look, we maligned VAR and goal line technology, but you would have needed it to figure out that one. So I suppose, yeah, on another day you could have not given it. So I suppose on the balance of play, you had two goals that were probably probably had slight question marks over. Yeah, I'd love to see a camera almost from the top of the goal to see, but look, I wasn't asking any questions anyway as a DLOA supporter. I was very happy with it, but at the same time, yeah, I mean, I suppose it was one of them. It's very hard to tell, and you kind of just had to, at the
it
same
was.
time, if the linesman hadn't have flagged it, I don't think anyone would have asked, was that over the line? So, it was kind of all the power was in the lines person's hand. But yeah, look, sure, I'm taking it. I mean, I'm as a deal away supporter, a deal away supporter had, I'm taking it. But as a League of Ireland neutral, I suppose it's kind of one of those you take the linesman and the ref's word for it, but at the same time, the goalkeeper's always going to say it crossed the line. I mean, just like the
Yeah,
striker's always going to say it did cross the line. So,
it,
I mean, it was it was an interesting one anyway. I think it caught everyone in the stadium off guard because I mean, Doonan, in fairness, I was very impressed with her work rate, but she kind of it was a shot out of nothing, and in fairness, it seemed to find its way. Apparently, it found its way over the line. I guess it's one of those. It wasn't a
yeah,
guess from the linesman, but like it'd be hard to know exactly did the whole ball cross the line. So it was probably an educated decision based on what he saw, I suppose.
yeah. Like, look, a goal is a goal at the end of the day. DLR Waves are absolutely going to take it, and as you say, on the balance of play, these things kind of do work themselves out. It was a really powerful shot from Doonan for sure. It just was really difficult to see, I suppose, from camera angles and whatnot. But like I say, the most important thing is it's an important point for DLR Waves, an impressive one as well on the first day of the season to, I suppose, hold Shamrock Rovers and to frustrate them like that. And just a word as well, the Anya Gorman penalty, I think that was her 200th league goal. Just what an absolute legend in the league. Obviously, what she's done with Ireland as well, but what she's done in the Women's League of Ireland, the Women's National League, the Women's Premier Division, whatever it is these days, is outstanding. She's just a quality player, and to be, top of the scoring charts year in, year out without fail. It really is so impressive, and a huge feat. And not only is she a fantastic player, she's a really great person as well. Fantastic to deal with off the pitch. So yeah, 200th league goal, and counting, not bad.
Yeah, and she'll probably get a few more this season. Fairness, Anya was very good. She caused a lot of problems. She seems to be almost kind of a, you it's crazy that a player that's been around for so long. I'm trying to avoid the word old here because last time I interviewed her on this podcast, I said she was very experienced and she gave out to me for calling her old. So I'm being careful with my words. But she said, she's been around for ages and she's still playing 90 minutes. She's still running around. So she's a proper athlete. She's basically been a professional footballer since before any kind of professionalism came into the league. So yeah, in fairness, a goal probably was coming, and she was probably one of the ones who were going to get it. I think overall a draw was the right result. I mean, and yeah, you could probably like if there's a Shamrock Rovers fan hosting a League of Ireland Women's Premier Division podcast, they'll probably asking questions about the Michelle Doonan goal. So it was two goals that probably have a little question mark over them. But in fairness, I think a draw or right result. I mean, because Waves did have chances, and that was I was talking to Laura Heffernan after the game, and that's something Waves maybe didn't do last season, create clear cut chances. There were times we had we had decent possession, but just there was never a time where you said we could have scored there, we could have scored there. But this time round, there were a few occasions where you could say, look, we had chances to score. So 1-1 probably the result there. Then the champions, Peamount United, getting off to a winning start. Erin McLaughlin, Karen Duggan, just another one who just seems to always show up and always just never has a bad game. I know Eileen Ring, who we have on the podcast sometimes, is her number one fan. Probably wasn't too happy about her scoring against Cork, but good win for Peamount. And in fairness, some flashes of quality from Cork. Like it looks like they're not going to be. I mean, last season was pretty grim at times, but it looks like it's not. They're not going to be complete pushovers this season anyway.
Yeah, like obviously champions off the mark with a win on the road. It's where James Callaghan will want his side to be. Two pretty decent goals there as well. Erin McLaughlin, I think it was a birthday goal for her. I think she turned 21 on Saturday. Took it really, really well, just controlling the box and the finish. And not a bad finish from Karen Duggan either. Came from a corner. I think she went to head it first and then kind of bounced back to her and caught it on the half volley. So she'll be pretty happy with that one, I'm sure. But yeah, as you say, just another stalwart in the league. Has seen it all, done it all. An incredible captain and leader as well. And yeah, Peamount will be happy to have gotten off the mark on the road, as I say. But as you mentioned there as well, there are positives from Cork. They did show, I suppose, glimpses of what we can expect going forward in the league this year under Danny Murphy. Some really good young players breaking through there as well. And I know they've had a few kind of losses in the off season, a few player departures. Even Fiona Bradley going to Treaty United is a big loss for them. She seems like an incredible talent coming through. But there are positives on Lee's side for sure. And I think I'm just checking here this weekend they're away to Galway, which is a tricky one given the, I suppose, statement of intent that Galway sent out at the weekend. But look, they'll back themselves to, I suppose, continue on an upward trajectory if possible, and see where they can go throughout the league for sure. Definitely a little bit more positive than last year for sure. Early on, the signs are quite good for Cork City.
Yeah, I think we don't want obviously we all love if our own team wins a game 6-7-0, but we don't want to see from a league point of view teams regularly getting hammered. And this Cork team, they did perform well. Peamount, I mean, I think a lot of players, a lot of pundits, a lot of people were riding off Peamount last season, didn't expect them to go on to win the league, didn't expect them to be leading the league basically for the whole campaign last season. I mean, they've kept their squad together. They have every chance of repeating their success from last season. I mean, there's no reason they can't go on and win the league again.
Yeah, and look, I think it was Tara O'Hanlon was the big loss for them. Obviously, has gone to Manchester City. they've recruited as well. They brought in Kira Maher and Erica Burke from Bohemians. And then I suppose just looking at the squad overall, they have an incredible squad on paper. Even I was looking, Side Doyle wasn't there at the weekend, I believe, just with college commitments and whatnot else. We might not see her every single week. But to have a player of her caliber as well to come back into the picture is unbelievable. And then you just look at some of the underage players that Peamount are producing. I mentioned Erin McLaughlin there, but then you've got Bray Healy, Ellen Dolan, Jess Fitzgerald, all these players who are in around the Irish women's senior setup, which is another huge boost for them. So definitely they'll be a really strong outfit again this year, and they'll, be putting everything into defending that title.
As for Wexford, I expected them to mount a serious title challenge last season. That certainly didn't happen. Knocked out in the first round of the cup. Did get out of their group in the All Ireland Cup, but didn't go on to the final. I mean, kind of a disastrous season in terms of the squad quality they have. They still have a really good squad this season, but beaten by Bows 2-0. What a goal from Fiona Donnelly was probably goal of the round. Aoife Brennan getting one then late on. Bows, I mean, they've managed to put together quite a decent squad. There's a few teams like we're going to talk about Athlone Galway as well. There's just a few teams that we'll be looking at. I mean, if the top three are going to be Peamount, Shamrock Rovers, and Shelburne again, there's a few teams that are going to be looking at breaking into that kind of top 3 or 4 teams. You'd expect Bowes might be one of them. Athlone Town and Galway are another two, and Wexford will be looking to get back there. But yeah, look, not a good start for uh, formerly known as Wexford Youths coming under the banner of Wexford.
Yeah, definitely. I think a disappointing first outing for them. 2-0 defeat at Ferrycarrig Park. And as you say, last season was one to forget. They'd have been intent on starting this one quite strongly. So that is certainly a setback on the first outing. But a really impressive win for Bohemians on the road. Like you say, Ken Kiernan's come in there. He's got a really good squad together. They seem to have worked really, really hard through the off season. And that paid dividends on the pitch. I suppose 2 really excellent goals at either end of the game. Fiona Donnelly's was a cracker. And Ava Brennan's wasn't half bad at the end either. She took it really, really well, just a brilliant turn and then a strike. And, I loved it as well that she backed herself to just go herself, like as a younger player. Because I think it was a Kira Smith who was on the underdogs last year and was really good at centre half back, GA coming in here at centre half. But she was, flying down Brennan's right, fully open. So it would have been much easier to go 1-2 at her, but she just turned and struck it, took it really, really well. So yeah, certainly an impressive result for Bowes. And a disappointing one for Wexford. First competitive game for Hugh Strong as manager there. I suppose news of Ejel Kennedy's retirement as well. So a few other, just a setback in that sense too, because Kennedy has been a really important player for Wexford through the years, quality player. So a big loss this season as well. I know they've a few players out injured. Rihanna Jarrett's out for a few weeks. But I probably did expect more from them on the opening night. The likes of Kylie Murphy, the likes of Ellen Malloy back fully fit. But I suppose they'll have a fire in their belly going forward now over the next few weeks, and they'll be hoping to bounce back from that opening night disappointment and to make a splash.
And looking at Galway, great win for them away to Athlone Town. I mean, last week we were talking about Athlone Town winning the President's Cup. Are they genuine title contenders? It seems like in the league, it just kind of got away from them last season. Whereas Galway, I mean, they were one of the teams of last season, considering they won the All Ireland Cup and they performed very well in the league. So they're another one who's really going to be looking to break into those top couple of teams. And as well, just looking at their All Ireland, they play Athlone in the All Ireland Cup as well as Glentoran and Sligo Rovers. I mean, they have a real chance to retain that title. And they have a real chance to between the league, the cup, and the All Ireland Cup to make a big statement this year.
Yeah, look, Galway have been really impressive. Obviously starting out with that 2-0 win at Athlone, which isn't an easy place to go either. That's a statement. And I think they were really good last season as well. I think it was fourth in the end they finished. But obviously, as you say, the All Ireland Cup, that piece of silverware, that would have, instilled a little bit more confidence and belief. The one thing with Galway is, I suppose they're quite a young team. They've a lot of really talented underage internationals, and it's probably just that little bit of experience, or maybe that just little bit of self belief that was maybe missing a little bit before now. I spoke to Julianne Russell before the start of the season for a piece in the 42, and she kind of mentioned that maybe that belief wasn't there before, but it really is this year. And we certainly saw that at the weekend. Jenna Slattery stepping up for that penalty, just took it so coolly. She's a really good player. She's certainly one to watch over the next while. And then Eve Dawson's header took that so well as well. Like, who was it? Was it Kelly Brennan that played the cross in pinpoint and headed home? And I suppose they just blitzed them in about 10 minutes in the second half. So a really good start for Galway and for Phil Trill there. And they'll be looking to do something for sure this season in the league. And that was quite an impressive start, particularly after Athlone, as you say, had beaten Peamount 3-0 in the President's Cup final the previous week. And Athlone are a really, really good team as well. They're so balanced, they're so well organised. So that's a real confidence boost for Galway going forward.
Looking ahead to the weekend, then Bohemians at Lone Town, Shamrock Rovers, Wexford Youths. Those are the two earlier games, 3 o'clock and 4 o'clock respectively. 5 o'clock, Treaty United, DLR Waves, Galway United, Cork City, Peamount, Shelburne. I suppose the two we're particularly going to be the one we're going to be particularly looking at is Peamount Shelburne. It always seems to be a good game. Always very hard to predict. I mean, because there's been occasions over the last 2 seasons where both teams have been doing well, and then one of them beats the other one 4-0 or something. So it's gonna be a tight one. Probably too early to call the title decider or anything like that, but it's definitely going to have implications for top of the table going forward. And if there's a winner in that game, it's going to instill a lot of confidence in either side because if I mean they're both top teams, so if Peamount can beat Shells, if Shells can beat Peamount, then they're going to feel like they can beat anyone in this league.
Yeah, for sure. It will definitely give whoever wins it, or whether it be a draw, it's definitely one of those kind of confidence games. As you say, Peamount Shells always delivers. It's always a really, really good game. It's always really difficult to call, quite unpredictable going into it. I do think Shelburne will, have a real fire in their belly to respond after the weekend. They won't be happy being held to a 0-0 draw at Talca by Sligo Rovers, and I suppose Peamount will just be looking to keep going. Made a win and start. They'll be hoping to make it 2 wins out of 2. But I do think Shelburne needs something from this game, just even, as you say, in a confidence and belief sense as well. But look, Shelburne have been there, done that. They've been around the block. They know how to deal with the highs, the lows, and everything in between. They won't be getting too worried too early. So it should just be a great game of football. Really, really looking forward to it. And then if you look through the other games as well, obviously yet to see Treaty in competitive action, so that'll be great. They've had a pretty busy off season, both on and off the pitch. So I'm actually really interested to see them. So that should be a good game against the other Waves as well.
Yeah, Treaty are kind of a bit of an unknown. We were talking to their new CEO, Kira McCormick, a few weeks ago, and it was she was telling me a lot of their players won't be coming in until kind of around week 3 of the season. So it'll be an interesting one. Dealer Way's first away game of the season. Other very interesting game, Bohemians at Lone Town to start the day off. No particularly early game this week, but at Lone going to Bohemians, they'll be looking to bounce back, whereas Bohemians will be looking to really solidify themselves because they're another team that are going to be looking at that fourth place in the league. I don't want to say it's the race to be best of the rest because I do feel like any of these teams could break into that top three and take points off those top three teams. Whereas at Lone Town, you feel like if they lose this week, then suddenly becomes a bit of an issue, right? 2 games, we haven't won a game, particularly if they don't score either. So that's always the thing at the start of the season for me. It the longer you go without winning, the longer you go without scoring, the longer you go without picking up a point, the more of an issue it becomes.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. And look, Athlone, even last year, when you look to the first half of their season, it it wasn't great. But they really turned it on in the second half. Kieran Clough came in there. They went on a winning run. They got to the FBI Cup final. You know, even after winning the President's Cup, you were expecting them to just keep on keeping going. But Galway have certainly shaken it up. And look, that's the beauty of the Women's National League. And particularly, I think this season, I think it's going to be more competitive than ever this year. Like, those games are so difficult to call. And you're talking there about title winners or top four. Like, it could go anyway. It really could. Which is the beauty of it all. As I say, it's going to be a really exciting season and some cracking games every single week, which everyone should certainly be getting out to watch. I'd definitely just appeal to everyone to go out and watch their local club. If you haven't before, give it a chance. If you can get to a game, do it. But if not, fire up LOI TV. Even if you can't do that, just watch the highlights, watch the goals. Like we say, there were some crackers over the weekend. Fiona Donnelly's, Eve Dawson's spring to mind straight away. Watch them. Like, give it a chance if you haven't. Because it's going to be a really exciting season. It's a really great league. Like, you look at the standard of players across the board, you look at the players that are breaking onto the international scene as well, and it all starts in the League of Ireland. So certainly get out, give it a go, and you won't be disappointed.
Yeah, absolutely. There's lots of quality here, and like you said, internationals are playing in the league, have come through the league. I mean, we all know Kate McCabe and Denise O'Sullivan, they both came through the league. So it's not a barren landscape. I mean, it's certainly not a problem child. There's plenty of talent there. Just to finish off before we let you go, just a quick word on, we weren't talking to you last week when we saw Ireland's Euro qualifier draw. So it's France, England, Sweden. Probably aside from getting Spain, it's as difficult as it could be. But in fairness, we were talking about it being a free hit if we finish third or fourth. Now, if we finish fourth, we will be relegated to League B for the next Nations League. If we, but we'll still have a guaranteed playoff against a League C team. We'll still be playing teams ranked below us in the playoffs. So, assuming we win the playoff, 2-leg playoff against the League C team, we'd be playing a 2-leg playoff against the League B team. So, in fairness, we still have every chance of qualifying here. So, it's kind of a free hit. Go out there and be fearless.
Yeah, like, obviously the playoff, there is a safety net there. But it's an extremely difficult draw, and my mind hasn't changed on that since it was done. You know, obviously when the draw was made, you're going, oh my God. That is pretty much, as you say, as tough as you can get, aside from drawing Spain. Like, you're playing the teams ranked third, fourth, and fifth in the world. Ireland are 24th. You're playing three of the four finalists at the last European Championships. Ireland have never played at European finals before. Obviously, England are the European champions, Sweden are the Olympic champions, France are a top nation. And when those teams are firing on all cylinders, like, they're just unbelievable to watch. But look, Eileen Gleeson and Ireland have said that they want to, be up there with the best in League A. And I think Denise O'Sullivan had a fantastic tweet the day of the draw. I can't remember the exact wording, but it was like, let's have it. Pretty much like, we wanted this, we have it now. Let's give it a rattle. And I've no doubt that Ireland are going to do that. Like, obviously, as you say, the third and fourth place finishers will go into playoffs, but Ireland will be targeting a top two spot. Like, they will. That's just the nature of it. That sport. You want to win every game. But it's a huge challenge. Like, it is. It's going to be so difficult. Great news that two of the home games are going to be played in the Aviva Stadium. We're not sure about the third home game yet. I think it's the France game in July. The FAI said that a venue will be confirmed soon. Rather interesting that they haven't, just fixed it for Tala Stadium. I suppose a lot of that comes down to Rovers and whether they'll have European fixtures around then or what the story is in that sense. So interested to see where that third home game is going to be. But yeah, brilliant news that two of the games will be in the Aviva. Obviously played against Northern Ireland there for the first time last September. Crowd of over 35,000. Was a really great atmosphere that day. And Ireland are going to need that and more when England and Sweden come to town. Now, the one thing was that game last September was a Saturday afternoon. These games are Tuesday and Friday nights. So that, I suppose, brings a challenge in itself. But look, England at the Aviva Stadium, it doesn't get much bigger than that. So I do think that there'll be an amazing crowd that day. And it just should be so exciting. It's a really big opportunity as well to build sustainable crowds at Lansdowne Road. So again, I just encourage anyone who can to get a ticket and turn out that day. It's going to be, yeah, it's amazing to have like such big names in world football coming to Dublin, but also you have those on the Irish team as well, and Katie McCabe, Denise O'Sullivan, and whoever else like Louise Quinn, Sinead Farley. It's going to be great to see them go up against the biggest teams in world football again and hopefully show that they belong there once more.
Yeah, that's very well said. Emma, thanks very much. We'll let you go. Just quickly, where can we get all the stuff on the 42?
Yeah, so the 42.ie, you can download the app, you can get it on web, all our stuff's tweeted out as well, so pretty easy to find on Twitter. And you can subscribe to us as well to read all of our in-depth coverage, loads of women's football stuff there between domestic, international and whatnot else. So yeah, 42.ie.
You are listening to Post to Post Sport, postpost.sport.blog for all our content, and it's at Post to Post Sport on Instagram and Twitter. Got a text there from Emma when she, just after we were done recording, she said in her passionate recall of Eve Dawson's goal, she got a bit jumbled up, and it was actually Meany who got the assist for that really good goal. So she apologises for sending Kelly Brennan back to Galway. Fairness, Emma knows her stuff. I think we can allow her the odd slip up. Looking across the water, not too many games on over in England because it was a cup weekend, but disappointment for Leanne Kiernan's Liverpool, who were knocked out. But in fairness, you see Tottenham and Leicester City making the cup semi-finals, and one of them's going to be in the FA Cup final. We enjoyed seeing last year in the FAI Cup at Lone Town make a second consecutive final. It's good to see new teams break in, new teams get their hands on silverware. Galway United win the All-Ireland Cup last year too, so hopefully we have a bit of that cup magic. Obviously that's not till August, although the All-Ireland Cup will be starting next week, not this coming weekend, next weekend. So that'll be enjoyable. 3 rounds of group games, and then quarterfinals, semi-finals, final. I think it's a really good idea they added the quarterfinals. And yeah, you can let us know your thoughts on who's going to progress in the All-Ireland Cup and anything else in terms of this LOI season. Who's going to be best goalkeeper of the year, top scorer, players of the year? Who do you think is going to be in team of the year? Who was in your team of the week for last week, and what do you think about the upcoming fixtures? Just get in touch with us, whatever you want us to talk about. We'll talk about anything to do with Irish women's football. The other one that happened across the water in the championship in England was Crystal Palace winning again, and just to mention Izzy Atkinson, who moved over to Crystal Palace in January. She was awarded Player of the Month, so going really well for her. It was a good move. It seemed to have worked out well for her. I mean, there's a danger that, look, it's great to play for a team in the WSL, but at the end of the day, if you're not getting regular game time, if you're not regularly playing a lot of football, then you're not going to improve as a player, especially when you're still young. So you know, it was a good move and it's worked out well for her so far. Not easy for me as a Charlton Athletic supporter to praise Crystal Palace, so I won't. I'll just praise Izzy Atkinson for doing a good job. Hayley Nolan there as well, of course. But there's there's a lot of Irish interest across the water. So as the season comes to an end, in the next couple of months, we'll be keeping an eye on how the Irish players are doing across another bit of water across the Irish Sea, and then across another bit of water again in Belgium. Amber Barrett's doing incredibly well. Keep an eye on how she's doing with Standard Liège. She seemed to be making a habit out of scoring goals every time I see a post from Standard Liège. It seems to be saying that she scored another couple. So hopefully she can bring that into the Ireland camp when the Euro qualifiers start. Another thing we want to talk about at some point is, we touched on it last season a few times, how this new, obviously it's mainly in the men's League of Ireland, there's all this talk about the third tier coming in. Will it come in? When's it going to come in? Who's going to be in it? It's an interesting one for the women's league as well, because, you know, I think in theory second tier is great, but how do you make it work? I mean, when you look at, are you going to have a pyramid all the way down to amateur teams? Eileen Ring on the podcast made the point last year that, you know, in fairness, not every team wants to or has the facilities or capabilities to be linked in with the top tier, because they can't afford to travel across the country. They can't afford to. They don't have the facilities to play all these games, play a full schedule. They're purely amateur, and that's the way it has to be. We also see there's a massive gap every FAI Cup first round. We see an absolute massive gulf in quality between non-league teams and teams in the league. So that'd be one thing I was thinking of. What would be better? Would it be better to have just one big division with, say, 16 to 20 teams and just they all play each other? But then the issue is there's going to be absolute hammerings there. So maybe it is better just to have two smaller tiers. Is it going to be regionalized? How does that work? So that's something we're going to talk about again on the show. And I mentioned the Irish men's football there as well, just something that's going to be coming up soon enough. We'll have pretty much a male equivalent of this show. Looking around, it'll be a bit more sporadic. It'll be kind of either side of the international break. So we're going to have one before the next international break and one just a little bit after. Looking at how the Irish senior international side gets on, and all about domestic Irish men's football as well, and maybe a bit about men's Irish players overseas. So looking forward to doing that. And we're also going to be bringing a rugby podcast at the end of the Six Nations. Again, very sporadic, kind of coming up just now and then, end of the season, start of the next season, that kind of thing. So and as well, make sure you get our monthly magazine shows that cover women's world football and men's world football respectively. That's Vanishing Foam Monthly and Back in the Net. Really enjoying doing those podcasts. Actually great to chat to football people about football. And thank you for listening to Peil and Back. Back next Thursday. As always, YouTube, Spotify, Castbox, Google Podcasts. Make sure you subscribe to get alerted when there's a new episode. And pusspuss.sport.blog. Bit of regular content going up now. In terms of anyway, Irish women's football, we'll certainly have roundups of each round of games in the League of Ireland / Women's National League, whatever you want to call it. We'll try call it the right name occasionally, but we'll have that kind of thing, and we'll have different bits up on our website. Still needs a bit of tidying up, but we're getting there. So thanks for being patient with us during the last little while. Thank you for listening, and get in touch with us with any of your opinions, questions, anything you want us to talk about to do with Irish women's football. What do you think of the first weekend of the season? What do you think going into the second week? And thanks very much for listening, and enjoy the football.